Wagwan sports fans, and welcome back to another video. I'm Joe Mar, and this is This or That Sports TV, the place you guys come to get the best, most interesting, and everything sports topics, discussions, debates, and analysis on the internet. And as aforementioned, people, this is a post-game analysis of a big Manning Cup match that was held at the National Stadium on Friday, and it had a lot of stakes. It had a lot of interest riding on it. There's a lot to lose and a lot to gain, and both parties involved really came out knowing full well that this was a do or die type situation where it was almost as though win or possibly go home. And that was between Mona High School and Kingston College. It was kept at the National Stadium East Field, and it was touted to be possibly the biggest game, one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game in the group. And I'm here to talk about it, people. But before we get into all of the good stuff, like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share the video to 10 people but get us 6 subscribers. Because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, you know how many subscribers that would get us by the end of the day, people. But with that being said, without further ado, let me get right into the analysis. All right, people. So, Mona versus KC. Mona needing to win that game. KC possibly needing to win the game, depending on how other fixtures would pan out. But both teams coming in knowing that a result was imperative in this game. Mona obviously under more pressure because it was definitive that Mona would need at least 3 points to even give themselves a chance to qualify out of this zone to make it to the semi-final. Kingston College wanting to win so as not to have to depend on results elsewhere. And the table was set. But as soon as the whistle blew, Mona looked flat. Mona looked flat and very unimpressive. I did not see them against Tivoli Gardens High School, so I have to believe that that performance may well have been worst. But this is possibly one of the worst, if not the worst, Mona performances that I have seen since the inception of Mona Phoenix, or since the beginning of the Craig Butler era, which has spanned, what is it, 4 years now, I think. Today has to be, a rock bottom performance. Obviously, there were a lot of factors in play that would have attributed to Mona looking so flat, but Mona looked absolutely flat. They could not complete any passes. They didn't have any continuity. Their star players did not have very good games. The likes of Denzel McKenzie, who is one of, if not the best player in the Manning Cup. Well, I guess he isn't in the Manning Cup anymore. He just couldn't get off any passes. He just couldn't get the ball under control with his first touch. And they just looked all over the place, and they didn't look like they came prepared to play today. But before analyzing players, before breaking down individual performances, a very brief recap of the game. As I said, Mona came out flat. Kingston College came out with intention, continuously pressuring Mona. Smith, I think his name is, aka Messi, would wreak havoc on the Mona defenders, on the Mona wing backs, the Mona central defenders, almost toying with them, getting into good spaces, getting into position, doing what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And he really has shown that he has improved his game and is really matured and ready to step up and be one of the leaders for this Kingston College team. And he really stamped his authority on today's game, getting into good positions. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the one responsible for kicking the corner that led to the opening goal, which was an early one by Kevis Paul, a young Guyanese central defender who has stamped his authority on this Manning Cup so far this season, a part of Casey's international recruiting drive, really coming in, putting in a shift. But today probably has been his best performance all season, putting his team on the score sheet, with a confident head. And he really looked happy. He really looked exhilarated. He really looked relieved when he managed to get on the score sheet. And it was an all-important goal that gave Kingston College the lead in this game that they so desperately, possibly at the time needed, but really wanted to get and to go ahead in this fixture. And so said, so done. A set piece goal, they converted, they did what they need to do with their set pieces, and they made it count. But that would not be the only attack that Kingston College will have throughout the duration of the first half, and even going into the second half, where they constantly apply the pressure. Riquelme Edwards, I think his name is. I don't remember his last name. The Mona goalkeeper, aka Wags. He was called into action a lot of times, being forced to make plenty of big saves. Being forced to be dominant in his area, coming out and claiming squares, claiming crosses, getting punches, and just making big saves, holding Kingston College to just one goal in that first half and for a lot of the second half. So though Mona had a lot of flat performances, one of their standout performances would have had to have been their goalkeeper. He really put in a shift. Kingston College, another outstanding player, didn't have an amazing game by any standard, but Demari Daly, he had the prototypical Demari Daly game where he just got into spaces, he held up the ball, he was a menace to the Mona defenders. He would fight, he would hustle, he would, get himself into position and get shots off. And towards the end of the game, he would get open, square up, and hit the ball across the goal. Bang! Beautiful finish off the upright, putting Kingston College up 2-0. The game would begin to get chippy. The players would start getting at it. Souza in the midfield started making a lot of, I'd say, rash tackles. He was lucky not to have been carded. Kingston College themselves, they would have started to put on some tackles. They'd have started to get some yellow cards. Thought the referee did a good job of keeping the game under control. But when it was all said and done, Kingston College ended up winning that game 2-0, sending Mona packing out of this year's Manning Cup and sending Craig Butler himself packing out of Manning Cup in general, as he announced his retirement from schoolboy football after losing. So the implication for Mona, as stated, they're out of the Manning Cup. They're still the Walker Cup to play for, but it is rumored that a lot of their standout players won't be participating in the Walker Cup competition. They'll just move on to play for Vere Phoenix in the JPL, but that's yet to be seen. Mona's weakness, let me go right into that real quick. Depth. I think Mona has the best assortment of 11 players in the competition, and I'll still stand by that. But also, in the same breath, Mona has the worst bench of all the teams. I'm not going to say of all the teams in this round, but it might possibly be the worst bench of all the teams in this round. This Mona High School team has people that come onto the field who, for lack of a better term to put this, cannot play football. And it's crazy how a team of starters that good can drop off in quality so dramatically after making one or two substitutions. And that would have been their bane for the second round, dealing with card suspensions. We're missing standout players at every step of this quarterfinal round. In the first game against Jamaica College, and it really costed them. They didn't have Carlton Brown. In the second game against Tivoli, they didn't have Denzel McKenzie. And in the third game against Kingston College, arguably the most important game, they didn't have arguably their most important game. And without argument, the Mona MVP for this season, Rabina Gordon, aka Itis, and it was such a big loss. The team looked very flat without his energy and without his creativity from the back, and the defense looked very shaky, and the team lacked leadership. Obviously, they had to put measures in place, playing a four at the back today, having Dante Peralta slot into the wing back position. But Mona's bane is their depth. They just do not possess the ability to inject any talent or energy off the bench, because they have players on their squad that cannot play football and that is what costed them their season. Today, the absence of Robina Gordon and Sean Layton, apparently Alex Souza, the midfielder, he was playing on one leg, playing injured. With all those circumstances surrounding the fixture, Mona didn't stand a chance. Obviously, I had Mona topping this group, coming out and possibly going on to win the Manning Cup, and I could not have been proven more incorrectly. And that doesn't happen very often where Joe Graham is wrong. But in this situation, I was wrong because these factors mentioned, they are a part of football, and it is the coach's responsibility, it is the staff's responsibility, and it is the player's responsibility to go out and get results in spite of the circumstances that surround the team or the organization. And they just weren't capable of overcoming the trials that they had. Kingston College, a pragmatic team, a very practical team, a very driven team, a doggish team. And that is what Kingston College is known for. Their motto, is the brave may fall but never yield. It is it is the personification of Kingston College itself. And it's been on display for the past couple of seasons in the schoolboy football competition, where talent wise they don't necessarily match up to their competition, but in terms of heart and grit and just wherewithal and know how to get it done, Kingston College have demonstrated that. They've also demonstrated mental toughness, having the ability to step on teams' throats, defeating teams 5 and 6, 6-0s and 6-1s in this competition, and then losing in games as well and being able to bounce back after losses and having dominating performances. We've seen that from them 2 times this season. So it's clear that Coach Vassell really has a good relationship with these boys, and he's really honed their ability to win and to be mentally strong. And it's very evident. And that's why Kingston College are a wild card in this year's Manning Cup. Obviously, me and Rush will talk more about the Manning Cup, and we'll, after tomorrow's or today, depending on when you're watching it, fixtures between Catherine, Excelsior, Campion, and Hydale. We'll have a quarterfinal roundup and look towards the semi-final and the Champions Cup and so on and so forth. But I think Kingston College will definitely back themselves to continue on in this Manning Cup and the Champions Cup and go forward and make some noise because of their grit, because of their heart, and because of very good coaching. And it was on display today, and I think it will continue to be on display throughout the Manning Cup. So Kingston College, really, they haven't been in my radar all season. I've counted them out in a sense, because they aren't as talented as these other teams. But what I've seen in this quarterfinal round is that the Brave may fall, but never yield. I'm not a KC person, so I'm not necessarily super happy at the success of Kingston College, but I'm also a fair person, and I have to give credit where credit is due. And Coach Vassar Reynolds is doing a great job. Kimale Reese coming out leading the team this year with the captain's armband, putting in a very good shift at right back today. As I said, Kevis Paul, outstanding defender, looking so good. The Kingston College team, they're officially, in my eyes at least, one to watch. But yes, people, that was the analysis roundup, my 2 cents on the fixture between Mona High School and Kingston College. Kingston College prevailing by 2 goals to nil, sending Mona out of the Manning Cup and sending Craig Butler out of schoolboy football. The game itself was not a very good game. In fact, it was probably one of the worst games I've watched all season. But the storyline surrounding it, kept me engaged, kept me watching. And what can I say? The result, though a shocking one, I think well warranted and justified. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. I mean, 15 minutes of pure analysis, people. And share the video to 10 people, but get us 6 subscribers, because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, do you know how many subscribers that get us by the end of the day, people? But yeah, in the comments, tell me what you think about my analysis. Tell me what you think about KC. Tell me what you think about Mona going out. What do you think about my take that Mona has probably the best 11 and then the worst bench? It's like a strange juxtaposition. as the literary people would say. Anyways, people, before I continue to ramble on, see you in the future.